Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Lucas Nitro and Mitchell Carblow will be dropping into the 3rd Division, and Casey Energizy had a career-ending crash in qualifying. And also, Mobius Gravendigger retired from the Piston Cup after failing to qualify for this race. And Aiden Shifter also retired from the Piston Cup and had this to say. I mean, Aiden Shifter is right. And then Nick Charger said this. Nick Charger, there is a very good reason why the field size was reduced. And Andrew Axler had this to say in return. I mean, he is right. And Aiden Shiftright took part in qualifying for Dyno Draft Ski. Let's see if he was able to qualify. Starting at pole position for this race is Lightning McQueen with Cal Weathers to his outside. Row 2 has the mean yellow car, Kyle Bushtire, and Bobby Swift to his outside. Row 3 has 2 winners from this season, Brad Karslowski and Denny Carlin, who both wreck other cars. Row 4 has Carl Edwards and Brick Yardley starting to his outside. I wonder what he'll do this race. Row 5 has last race's winner, Jimmy Cables, and Kevin Carvick to his outside. Kurt Bushtire will start on the inside of row 6, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. to his outside. On to row 7, where we have the Rocket Ryan Newcar starting alongside Speedy Comet. Now on to row 8, where Matt Karzeth will be starting on the inside. He once wrecked Joey Lagirno starting on the outside of this row. Row 9 has Martin Carrix Jr. and James Garrison starting to his outside. Row 10 has Casey Corner and Rex Revler. I wonder what he'll do this race. Row 11 has Greg People and Clint Bokar. I wonder if either of them will do anything this race. Row 12 has Kyle Carson and Jamarcus Kakart, who finished 43rd last race. Hopefully, that is different this time. Row 13 has Pitbull Speed Racer and Billy Carjoy, starting to his outside. Row 14 has Eric Carmarola in the number 43, and TG Castlenut to his outside. Row 15 has Paul Racedraft, making his first start this season, and Chip Gearings to his outside. Row 16 has Sebastian Silva and Cal Williams, making his 3rd start this season. Row 17 has Maury Clutchburn and Doug Throttleman the Jumper. Now, on to row 18, where we have Jack DePost starting alongside Reb Meeker. I wonder if he'll do something this race. Row 19 has Arthur Karstro, who has gained a reputation for wrecking mean cars, and Phil Tankson, what are you doing all the way back here? Row 20 has Todd Marcus, who failed to qualify last race, and Jamie McCarry to his outside. Row 21 has Ernie Gearson and Ken Burnout, making his very first Piston Cup start. And starting in 43rd is Elijah Voltson, who's shocked to qualify for this race. And these 12 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. Now into the race, where Lightning McQueen would lead the first 49 laps of the race. Meanwhile, Joey Lagirno would be 22nd as of lap 42, where he wrecks Todd Marcus, why? And Kyle Bushtire would fail to wreck Cal Withers and Brick Yardley on lap 45. Martin Carrix Jr. would take the lead on lap 49 and lead until lap 51. But bad Brad Karslowski would push Martin Carrix Jr. on lap 51, and then later that lap would take the lead for himself, leading all the way until lap 53, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 102. Meanwhile, Kyle Bushtire would be 8th as of lap 54, where he wrecks. Who does he wreck? Jamie McCarry, and now he's out next race. Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow car on lap 55, and then Ernie Gearson would go down 1 lap on lap 58, and then 2 laps later, Jack DePost would also go down 1 lap on lap 60, and then Reb Meeker would go down a lap the very same lap, and then 3 laps later, Ken Burnout will go down 1 lap on lap 63, and then the very next lap on lap 64, Elijah Voltson would also go down 1 lap. Same with Arthur Karstro on lap 71. But then, 2 laps later, on lap 73, Kyle Bushtire would be 3rd as of that lap, and then he wrecks Ernie Gearson! Why, you mean yellow car? And then, Jack DePost would go down a 2nd lap as a result. And Eric Carmarola would also go down 1 lap. And then, Denny Carlin would push Jack DePost on lap 81. And then the very next lap on lap 82, Jack DePost would push Denny Carlin back. And then James Gearson would push Denny Carlin later in lap 82. And then on lap 96, Reb Meeker would get back on the lead lap. And then 4 laps later, Joey Logierno would be 16th as of lap 100. When he wrecks Speedy Comet, who is not out. Brad Keselowski would fail to do a pit maneuver on Lightning McQueen on lap 102. And then he would take the lead for 4 laps. And this would result in Piston Cup fans booing Bad Brad Keselowski. And then Bad Brad Keselowski would push Kyle Busch-Tire on lap 103. And then he would say this: "Don't say that word!" And then Lightning McQueen would retake the lead on lap 106 and lead all the way until lap 121. Jack DePost would go down a 3rd lap on lap 109. And Ken Burnout would go down another lap on lap 110. And then Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Speedy Comet on lap 112. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would be 21st as of lap 114, where he wrecks Chip Gearings. Why? And then Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow car. And then Jimmy Cables would take the lead off of Pit Cycles on lap 121. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would be 25th as of lap 121, where he wrecks Eric Carmarola, Sebastian Silva, TG Castlenut, Billy Carjoy, Jamarcus Cakehart, Rex Revler, and Maury Clutchburn. Why? And then Jack DePost would go down a 4th lap. Ken Burnout would go down a 3rd lap. Elijah Voltson goes down another lap. And then Pitbull Speed Racer, Cal Williams, James Garrison, Clint Bokar, and Kevin Harvick all go down 1 lap. And Lightning McQueen would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 170. Kyle Busch-Tire would be 26th as of lap 126. When he wrecks Ken Burnout. Why, you mean yellow car? And this wreck would also put him down 1 lap. And then Bob Cutlass would say this. And Daryl Cartrip also has this to say. These result in Kyle Busch-Tire going down another lap on lap 127. And Piston Cup fans would cheer. I mean, now he won't win the race. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would fail to wreck Jack DePost on lap 129. And then Phil Tankson would push the mean yellow car on lap 134. And then Matt Karzith would push Phil Tankson the very next lap. And then Matt Karzith would push Joey Logierno on lap 135. And then Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Lightning McQueen on lap 136. Greg People would go down a lap on lap 142. But on lap 145, Cal Williams would get back on the lead lap. And 3 laps later, James Garrison would also be back on the lead lap. The very next lap, Arthur Carstro would also be back on the lead lap on lap 149. But on lap 150, Jack DePost would get one of his laps back. And then Denny Carlin would be 11th as of lap 153. Where he wrecks Elijah Voltson, who is out, but he refused to go to the garage and instead went to pit road to get some repairs. This would lead Elijah Voltson to go down another lap. Those repairs took a while, but Jack DePost would go back down another lap. Now he's 4 laps down as a result of this. And Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Speedy Comet on lap 162. And Bad Brad Keselowski would fail to wreck Lightning McQueen on lap 170. And then he would take the lead, leading all the way until lap 174, where Cal Weathers would take the lead for himself for the first time this race. But later that lap, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead and lead for 4 more laps. And Kyle Busch-Tire would get one of his laps back on lap 177. Brick Yardley would take the lead on lap 178 and lead until lap 183. Meanwhile, Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Brick Yardley on lap 178, and then James Garrison would fail to wreck Joey Logierno, the mean yellow and red car, the next lap. Jimmy Cables would take the lead on lap 183 and lead for 6 laps before Cal Weathers would take the lead for himself on lap 189. He would lead until lap 195, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading for just 2 laps before Speedy Comet would take the lead. he would lead for 3 laps. But in the meanwhile, Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Speedy Comet on lap 199. Brick Yardley would take the lead later that lap and lead all the way until lap 234. Joey Logierno would be 6th as of lap 204, where he wrecks Lightning McQueen, who is not out. Same with Phil Tankson. But as a result of this, Greg People goes down another lap as a result of a long pit stop. Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, also goes down 1 lap. But Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, would get back on the lead lap on lap 207. And then Elijah Voltson would get one of his laps back on lap 209. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would fail to wreck Jack DePost on lap 210. And then he would go on to say this. And then his team owner, Joe Gears, had this to say to Kyle Busch-Tire. And then an anonymous Piston Cup fan had this to say, not believing that Kyle Busch-Tire has fans. James Garrison would fail to wreck Kyle Busch-Tire and Denny Carlin on lap 214. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would go down another lap on lap 218. 2 laps later, Kyle Busch-Tire would get one of his laps back on lap 220. And then he would fail to wreck Brick Yardley on lap 221. And then Speedy Comet would accidentally wreck Matt Karzith on lap 225. But Matt Karzith would not be out. And then, as a result of the caution, Speedy Comet and Doug Throttleman would all go down a lap, and Cal Williams would once again go down 1 lap. But Cal Williams would get back on the lead lap on lap 228. And then Kyle Busch-Tire would get back on the lead lap 1 lap later on lap 229. On lap 233, Speedy Comet would get back on the lead lap. And then on lap 234, Denny Carlin would take the lead, leading for 3 laps. But before he loses the lead, Jack DePost would go down a 5th lap, and Arthur Carstro would go down a lap once again, both on lap 236. And then Denny Carlin would fail to wreck Jack DePost on lap 236. And then Jack DePost had this to say to Denny Carlin. And then Jack DePost would be 31st as of lap 236, where he wrecks Denny Carlin, and now he's out. Piston Cup fans would begin to cheer on Jack DePost as a result. Joey Logierno would take the lead on lap 237, but Phil Tankson would be 2nd as of lap 237, where he wrecks. Who does he wreck? Joey Logierno, the mean yellow and red car. And Speedy Comet would take the lead after the restart, leading until lap 242. Kyle Busch-Tire would fail to wreck Speedy Comet on lap 240, and then Arthur Carstro would be back on the lead lap on lap 240. But the very next lap, he would go back down 1 lap on lap 241. And then the next lap after that, on lap 242, Arthur Carstro would be 24th. And then he would wreck Kyle Busch-Tire, the mean yellow car. And then Kyle Busch-Tire said this, saying that he quits. And Denny Carlin will be doing the same, as he's complaining about Piston Cup officials. Both Kyle Busch-Tire and Denny Carlin will be quitting Piston Cup racing for the rest of the season. Joe Gears begs both racers to not quit racing for the season. And then Denny Carlin says that the Piston Cup needs to apologize to him and Kyle Busch-Tire. And then Piston Cup fans would begin to cheer for Jack DePost and Arthur Carstro on lap 242, because some mean cars decided to quit racing for the season. Cal Weathers would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 268. Arthur Carstro would get back on the lead lap on lap 245. And Reb Meeker would get back on the lead lap on lap 259. The very next lap, Elijah Voltson would go down his 3rd lap once again on lap 260. Doug Throttleman would get back on the lead lap on lap 261. And then he would jump over Carl Edwards and Ryan Newcar on lap 263. But 3 laps later, Doug Throttleman would be out because of an engine failure on lap 266. Martin Carrix Jr. would take the lead on lap 268 and lead for 3 laps. And then Paul Racedraft would go down a lap on lap 270. On lap 271, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 19 more laps And meanwhile, Elijah Voltson will go down a 4th lap on lap 280, and then on lap 283, Jack DePost would go down a 6th lap, and then Greg Beeple would go down a 3rd lap on lap 284, and then Bad Brad Keselowski would be 3rd as of lap 289. Where he wrecks Greg Beeple. Why? And then wrecks Elijah Voltson, who is now out next race. And this would lead Piston Cup fans to boo Brad Keselowski on lap 289, not stopping him from taking the lead on lap 290. Leading until lap 298, where Phil Tankson would be 2nd as of lap 298, where he wrecks Bad Brad Keselowski, who is now out. And then James Garrison would take the lead after the restart, leading all the way until lap 304, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 347. Pitbull Speed Racer would be out on lap 329 because of a hard crash, and Speedy Comet would take the lead on lap 347, leading for 2 laps. And soon after, Jack DePost would go down a 7th lap on lap 347. Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 349 and lead the final 51 laps of the race. Meanwhile, Jack DePost would go down an 8th lap on lap 356, and Arthur Carstro would go down 1 lap on lap 359, and Cal Williams would go down a lap on lap 360 the next lap, and 2 laps later, Reb Meeker would once again go down a lap on lap 362. Matt Kenseth would be 12th as of lap 399 when he wrecks the Rocket Ryan Newcar, James Garrison, Phil Tankson, Kyle Carson, Kevin Harvick, Paul Racedraft, Clint Bokar, Arthur Carstro, and Reb Meeker. Why? Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch-Tire would say this about the crash. Kurt Busch-Tire, don't say that word! And then, an anonymous Piston Cup fan had this to say to Kurt Busch-Tire. Lightning McQueen will take the checkered flag and go on to win the 2016 The King 400, winning his 92nd career victory and getting his first win of the season. Martin Truex Jr. will finish 2nd this race. Brick Yardley will finish 3rd. Speedy Comet 4th. Cal Weathers 5th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 6th. Jimmy Cable 7th. Casey Corner 8th. Bobby Swift 9th. And Matt Kenseth rounding out the top 10. And Carl Edwards being the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 12th. And I already went over the top 10. But who is the other car that finished on the lead lap? It was none other than Kurt Busch-Tire, finishing 11th this race. Cal Williams also finishes the race on the track, finishing 13th, 1 lap down. And then, with 1 lap to go, there was a big crash that wrecked out all of these cars. But then you'll notice, there's Jack DePost, who's 8 laps down, finishing 23rd this race. Still on the track though, but every racer that finished behind Jack DePost did not finish the race, all going to the garage. That is a lot of cars going to the garage this race. Why? Because mean cars kept wrecking everyone! And there were also good cars wrecking the mean cars. Now, here is the top 20 in points, where Cal Weathers has gone up to 3rd, and Jimmy Cables falls down to 4th position. Bobby Swift rounding out the top 5 for now. Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch-Tire, Casey Corner, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounding out the top 10, with Phil Tankson not too far behind, with James Garrison in 12th. Brad Keselowski falls to 13th in points, and Denny Carlin, who both have 476 points at the moment, with the Rocket Ryan Newcar behind them, and Joey Logano in 16th. Speedy Comet is somehow in the top 20, with Brick Yardley finally making his way into the top 20 in points. But who is in 20th position? Kyle Carson, 30 points ahead of Jamie McCarry.
ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back. And that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
With Kyle Busch-Tire and Denny Carlin deciding to quit racing for the season, will this result in fewer crashes on the track? Because there are fewer mean cars on the track? Or will other mean cars like Joey Logano just wreck more cars? We'll see what happens in the 5th race of 2016. The video covering that race will be coming out soon enough. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. The Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom. But who got in the way of this common dream? The tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin, the one responsible for starting this unjustified war. Did he forget that Russia is the biggest country in the world? But Vladimir Putin is not having everything going his way right now, even though his tyranny controls a lot of Ukraine's land, around 20% of it. Land in Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. Despite this, Ukraine controls land in Russia's Kursk and Bryansk oblasts, showing Vladimir Putin that he can't just get what he wants. But despite Ukraine's gains against Russia, every day it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because of dwindling supplies, both in terms of soldiers and equipment. We here at the KA Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny and recognize Ukraine's true borders, as shown by this map. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava! Nechai shvisya daruritsia! Ukraini permoha! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.